there, welcome to the Her Business podcast, the show dedicated to helping women entrepreneurs grow profitable businesses and do what they love every single day. I'm Susie Daphnis, and today we're diving into a concept that I feel is reshaping how we think about work and success. And this concept is inspired by the book 10x is easier than 2x. It's a book that was released in 2023, and it's written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Now, this book is our current book club book. So as part of the Her Business Network membership, we send our members 3 books a year. And our current book, which members have been just loving, is this book. If you haven't heard of it, I'll say it once more. It's 10x is easier than 2x. Lots of great concepts suitable to business owners who want to grow their business without having to work harder. Sounds good, right? Today in this episode, we're exploring a concept in the book, which is about free days and looking at why free days are a success strategy for your business. So let's start by having me explain what we mean by free days. Now, these aren't just days off. They're a strategic tool for your creativity, for your focus, and for your growth. And whether you've only been in business for a short while or you're leading an established business, understanding the importance of free days can be your secret weapon, both in business and in living a life that you enjoy a whole lot more. And yep, that's a pretty big promise, but it's one that I'm prepared to back up. So a few weeks ago, as part of the strategic planning that we do with our members inside the network, every year we make sure that we've got not only a 12-month plan, but then we break it down into quarterly plans and we have monthly check-ins. And I invited our members to add free days to their calendars as they were looking forward to the new year. So we have these great big mega calendars, our Her Business calendars, and members were invited to add in their free days that they wanted to take off during the year, in addition to all the different projects that they were going to be working on. So not just weekends, which I know many of us work on weekends, but I wasn't talking about weekends. I was actually talking about scheduling other days when you plan not to be working. And members were so excited to add more free time to their schedules while simultaneously rolling out their growth plans. Because whether there's a milestone birthday for someone in your family or there's something that you've just wanted to do and that you never get around to because the weekends sort of come and go really, really quickly, here's the thing. You can do both. You can work less and grow your business. You couldn't have told me that a few years ago, but I now know it to be true. But it really takes a mind shift to know and believe that you can grow your business while actually working less. And I was with a friend over the weekend, and we both have a goal for this year to work fewer days, to take more free days, but to maintain our business growth. And we had this really heartfelt discussion about the challenge that this has been for us, both mentally and emotionally, to think about taking days off that are not weekends, taking days off where we're not traveling. I'll talk more about that later. But we're both committed to finding a way to do this and to support each other to have this new way of working where it's not all grind, where we're actually going beyond the grind and incorporating free days as a success strategy in our businesses. So at the end of last year, I added up the days that I had been away from my office. I did a lot of travel last year. And when I added it up, it was 142 days. Now, that is months and months of time being away. Whether I was traveling interstate or whether I was traveling down the coast or whether I was traveling overseas, and I did a lot of overseas travel last year. Now, this year, I don't have as much travel on my calendar, but I still want to build in as many free days as makes sense around our extensive and busy schedule. And in order to justify it to myself, and maybe you'll feel the same as you listen, I had to get to the bottom of what are the enormous benefits to my business and to myself for having free days. And so what I want you to know is that from my experience of having built these days into my schedule last year, it makes such a difference to how I felt about my business and my life. So let's start by exploring how free days can significantly enhance your creativity. As women entrepreneurs, our creativity isn't just a skill. You know, we're natural creators as business owners. Creativity is the lifeblood of our businesses. It's how we solve problems. It's how we innovate. It's how we stand out in a crowded market. But here's the thing, creativity, it needs space to breathe. And continuous work without breaks can really lead to a creativity block. Now, according to the authors of 10x is easier than 2x, Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, whom I mentioned earlier, stepping away from work allows our subconscious minds to process and synthesize information in new and unexpected ways. This is where those aha moments come from. It's like letting a field lie fallow so it can be more productive in the next season. So, how do we use our free days for creativity? Firstly, we want to schedule them regularly, and we want to treat these days with the same respect as a crucial business meeting. Using this time for activities that refreshes you, like nature walks or reading or spending time with loved ones. And I know that my most creative ideas come to me, even in the last few weeks when I was overseas attending the mastermind I belonged to. I had the most creative ideas come to me when I was visiting a store, or when I was on a walk, or I was at the gym, or I was listening to an inspiring speaker or reading an article. Those creative ideas that I had are already impacting our campaigns and our promotions. And the key is to shift your focus away from work-related tasks very deliberately. Because when you return, you'll find yourself approaching challenges with fresh eyes and new ideas. So that's the first point. I want to move on to our second point, and that is reducing burnout, because burnout is a very real issue, especially for women who are often juggling multiple roles. It's that feeling of being overwhelmed and exhausted and losing interest in things that we once loved. And we've all been there. We start a business, we're so excited, we grow the business. One day we think, what the heck am I doing? This business is taking all my time and energy, and I kind of feel wiped out all the time. So free days act as a circuit breaker to this. By deliberately taking time off, you're giving yourself permission to rest and to recharge. And recharging is not a luxury. It's actually essential for sustained success. But how can we prevent these days from being swallowed up by the I should be working guilt that we can feel? The answer lies in understanding that rest is also a part of work. It's a part of success. It's not the opposite of productivity. It's actually a part of it. And by scheduling free days in your calendar, you're not just planning for rest, you're planning for productivity and the longevity of your business. The third benefit I want to talk about is about improved focus and productivity. Now, this might seem counterintuitive. How does taking time off work make me more productive, Susie? But I think of it like this. When you're running a marathon, or you imagine yourself running a marathon, you need to pace yourself and take water breaks to reach the finish line. You need to have probably a bite to eat somewhere in the middle. It's the same when you're working on a major project. You don't start on day one and then 24 hours a day, 28 days later, you've finished the project. You actually split it up into manageable chunks, allowing time to plan, to do the work, to review, just as we do with all the projects that we put out in our business. Now, research shows that our ability to concentrate and engage in deep work improves significantly even after one free day. So that means when you are working, you do so with a sharper focus and a clearer mind. And to make the most of this when you're planning your work days, really prioritize tasks that require deep focus for the period right after your free days. I'll say that again. When you're planning your work days, especially days when you have to do deep work, put those right after a free day, or your free days if you're taking multiple in a row, because this is when your mental resources are going to be at their peak. Remember, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And I know that you've heard that phrase 1,000 times, just like I have, but it's easier said than done. What does it look like to work smarter? It looks like being objective and not so in the weeds in the tasks that you can't see the forest for the trees. I want to talk a little bit about work-life balance. Now, this term is one that I have a bit of an issue with, because I don't believe that you can have true balance. How is it even possible to think, well, I'm going to do 50% of my time here and 50% there? That's what makes it balanced. Or 25, 25, 25, 25% effort on different things, work, family, exercise, whatever it is, spirituality. It's not really possible to do that, to get real balance. The thing is, you're going to be more focused on one area than another on any given day, any given week, any different phase in your life. But the idea here is not to be all work and no play. And this is particularly crucial for us as women in business. We're often managing not just our businesses, but personal and family responsibilities. And free days really help us draw a clear line between work and personal life. They remind us that our identity isn't tied solely to our business success. And by stepping away from work, we can give undivided attention to other aspects of our lives that matter, be that your family or hobbies that you're wanting to start or self care. And implementing this doesn't have to be complex. You can start by identifying one day a week or a month where you completely unplug from work. So this is separate to your weekends. And you might go and visit a gallery that you've been hoping to visit. There's a couple of exhibitions on in Sydney right now that I really want to get to in the next 6 to 8 weeks. You might take that dance class or watch that movie or clear out the garage or start that garden or go and visit a relative that you've really missed, but you just can't get around to seeing on the weekend. I have someone very much like that in my life right now. And she is on my list for my next free day. Or you might just want to sit by the pool with a book or a podcast. And if you're listening to me right now and you are sitting by the pool, listening to this podcast, let me know. Tag me on her business, at her business on Instagram, and show me a photo. It can be of your feet. You don't need to show me you in your bathers. Whatever it is that you're making time for, all your free days are for those things. Now, often, as I said, we keep the weekends for personal time, but then by the time you've run errands, done some food preparation, taken the kids to sport, picked up someone, from wherever they were, been, the family Uber, spent time with family or friends, you can end up never making progress on the things that are just for you, where you feel free and you feel like you have space and the time that you crave. I know for me, that free days, I have to get away from the house and the computer, because what will happen is if I'm here, if I'm sitting in my office or I'm sitting at the kitchen bench, I'm going to fall right into my inbox, right into Slack channels, right into social channels. So I start a little list of things that I want to do on my free days. And it's a way for me to remember that there are things that I've been putting off that I can now do. If you think about things like, I don't know, I color my hair, or maybe you get regular treatments of some sort, maybe you get your eyebrows done or your nails done or whatever. Often we'll squeeze those into a weekend. And what can happen is we eat up the whole morning, right? Could I actually do that on a free day? Could I go and get my hair done and then go and grab a coffee and then go and find a bookstore and spend a little bit of time there? It just sounds delicious to me. It's just a function of opening up your imagination to what you can do to support yourself and in turn support your business, because you'll come back feeling more connected to yourself and to your dreams. Having these regular, consistent breaks, it can be totally transformative, and it can lead to a more fulfilling and balanced life. And remember, if you have a team or a partner, you want to communicate your free days and set some boundaries. You can, refer to them as leave days or self-care days or whatever it takes for you to not feel guilty that others are working when you are not. Now, benefit number 5 is about enhancing your problem-solving abilities. As business owners, we are constantly facing challenges that require innovative solutions. But sometimes the harder we think about a problem, the more elusive that solution becomes. Free days offer us a chance to step back and look at problems from a distance. Now, in the book I mentioned, 10x is easier than 2x, the authors suggest that this distance is often what's needed for solutions to emerge. When our minds are relaxed, we can connect dots we couldn't see when we were too close to the problem. And maybe you found that too. Suddenly you're on a walk and a problem is solved. You're in the shower having a nice hot bath and you find a solution to a problem that you have. So next time you're faced with a tough business challenge, instead of pushing harder, try stepping back. Take a free day to detach from the problem, and you might find that solution comes to you in those moments of rest. Finally, let's explore how free days enhance our emotional and physical well-being. Right now, you can probably hear my voice. I'm drinking a cup of tea and I have a feeling that whatever's in this tea is impacting my vocal cords. So I'm going to stop drinking it for the rest of this episode. So I want to talk about how free days enhance our emotional and physical well-being. So running a business can be stressful. We all know that. And chronic stress, we know that it takes a toll on our health. And we need to be at our best, not just mentally, but also physically and emotionally, in order to lead our businesses effectively. And free days offer an opportunity to focus on self-care. Whether it's exercising or meditating or just getting extra sleep or study or getting a massage or going to the physio or hitting the local bathhouse, We actually have a great bathhouse near my home. I've only been there twice, in 2023, but it's on my list of things that I could do on a free day because when I'm there, I can't work, right? I'm in water or I'm in the sauna or I'm getting a facial and I can't work. And while it sounds like this luxury, and I know there's still a little bitty bit of me that feels a little bit guilty and self indulgent, I know that when I'm there, I relax and ideas flourish. Things come to me. I start to make connections that I've struggled with. I start to find solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable. So these sorts of things, this self-care, it really replenishes our energy reserves. It reduces stress and improves health. And you want to remember, as a business owner, your health is your greatest asset. And by prioritizing it through free days, you're not just taking care of yourself, you're ensuring that you can bring your best to your business and those who depend on you and depend on it. So by now, I hope you'll agree that integrating free days into your schedule isn't just a nice to have. It's a strategic necessity for any woman looking to build a successful and sustainable, a self-sustaining business. Whether it's boosting creativity and focus or enhancing your overall well-being or having you fall back in love with your business, I want you to think about free days as a success strategy for your business, but they won't just happen. You do need to schedule them and then stick to them and getting accountability to stick to them if you need to. Now, over at herbusiness.com/249, I'm going to put a summary of what we've covered in today's episode, the 5 or 6 areas that I suggested that you think about. So feel free to head over there, copy and paste them, and create a little checklist for yourself. Now, if you try this, if you start putting free days into your calendar, as so many of our members have done, I would love to know. In a moment, I'm going to give you an email address where you can write to me. And I hope today's episode inspired you to take action and reclaim your time for the things that truly matter. Remember, your business growth and your personal development, they actually go hand in hand. And that's why at Her Business, we don't just focus on giving you skills and practical strategies like marketing and sales and planning and finances. We also focus on you and your personal development. Now, if you're not a member of the Her Business Network and you'd like to join us, head on over to herbusinessnetwork.com today. There is a live chat there. If you have any questions or you're not sure if the network is suited to your business, go ahead and ask. We're here to help. Now, join us in the next episode of the Her Business podcast for more inspiring stories. I've got some great interviews coming up over the next few weeks and valuable lessons from successful female entrepreneurs who I think are really relatable. I love doing this show for you. I appreciate you listening and sharing the show with your friends. And I love it when I get a comment from you on what you enjoyed. And so I wanted to give a shout out to one of our listeners who listened to episode number what was it? Episode number 248. So just the last episode, which was all about how to find your ideal mentor. And I spoke a lot about what mentoring is, what the benefits are. I talked about some of the mentors that I'd have. And Michelle Cox, who has a couple of businesses, she has a business called Flunk Ceramics, and she makes the most exquisite dinnerware and different ceramics, and I'll put a link to her details in the show notes. She's also the host of her very own podcast called One Question, where she asks really interesting entrepreneurs one question that's related to their area of expertise and what they'd like to give to the listener. So I want you to check her out, but this is what she said. She said, "I really enjoyed this episode. Thanks, Susie, particularly your delineation between a coach and a mentor." So maybe you've heard of business coaches, you've heard of business mentors. They are not the same thing. And I explain how they're different so that you can decide which one is right for you. And I do that in episode 248 of the show. So I'm going to put those details over on our show notes at herbusiness.com/249. Now, if you have a question or you just want to get in touch with me, you can email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. If you're new to the show, be sure to subscribe, because if you enjoyed this episode, you want to make sure that you get the next one. And I'm releasing episodes about every 2 weeks at the moment. Sometimes we go to a weekly format, but right now it's every 2 weeks. If you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would head to Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is the big daddy when it comes to podcast shows and discovering new shows. So if you would be so kind as to leave me a rating or review there about this episode or anything you've enjoyed about the show, I would so appreciate it. It helps me get this message out to more and more women. Join me next time right here on the Her Business podcast. Bye for now.